All right, well, you already know. If you don't know what we're starting 5 headlines with today, then you are not a real fan of this show. Why are we starting with it? Because it's big news. I mean, actually big, groundbreaking, should be earth-shattering news. A website called The Debrief has a report this week, actually just came out yesterday, with this headline: intelligence officials say U.S. has retrieved craft of non-human origin. Okay? Now, I want you to listen to this, and you're going to listen to it. So sit down and listen, all of you, damn it, and care about it. You listen to it and care, because this is important. Reading a little bit, it says, a former intelligence official turned whistleblower has given Congress and the intelligence community inspector general extensive classified information about deeply covert programs that he says possess retrieved, intact, and partially intact craft of non-human origin. The information, he says, has been illegally withheld from Congress, and he filed a complaint alleging that he suffered illegal retaliation for his confidential disclosures, reported here for the first time. Other intelligence officials, both active and retired, with knowledge of these programs through their work in various agencies, have independently provided similar corroborating information both on and off the record. The whistleblower David Charles Grush, 36, a decorated former combat officer in Afghanistan, is a veteran of the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency and the National Reconnaissance Office. He served as the Reconnaissance Office's representative to the Unidentified Aerial Phenomena Task Force from 2019 to 2021. From late 2021 to July 2022, he was the NGA's co-lead for UAP analysis and its representatives to the task force. So this is a high-ranking person, and by the way, all of his credentials have been verified, so he's not just some Looney Tune making this up. The credential part we know for sure. So he was involved in these programs at the very top, privy to like the most classified kinds of information, and this is what he's now telling us. The task force was established to investigate what were once called unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, and are now officially called unidentified anomalous phenomena, or UAP. The task force was led by the Department of the Navy under the Office of the Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence and Security. It has since been reorganized and expanded into the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARROW, to include investigations of objects operating underwater. Grush said the recoveries of partial fragments through and up to intact vehicles have been made for decades through present day by the government, its allies, and defense contractors. Analysis has determined that the objects retrieved are of exotic origin based on the vehicle morphologies and material science testing and the possession of unique atomic arrangements and radiological signatures. In filing his complaint, Grush is represented by a lawyer who served as the original Intelligence Community Inspector General. Grush says, we're not talking about prosaic origins or identities. The material includes intact and partially intact vehicles. Now, let's see. There's a lot to this report. And you can read the entire thing. In fact, you should. You should go read the entire thing. A lot more to the story. But that's the really basic gist of it. And it's incredible. It goes on to explain that it's not just this guy. There are multiple whistleblowers confirming the existence of alien spacecraft. This is the kind of thing that's never happened before, where they'd come out and say, yes, it's real. Yes, we have it. Yes, it's from non-human origin. And they've been recovered and studied for years, for decades. But yet, of course, somehow this barely even makes a dent. It trends. So this story was trending on Twitter anyway yesterday. But somehow it's not treated as major headline news, which obviously it is. And actually, there's more to it. This whistleblower had an exclusive interview on News Nation last night, which I can tell you that it was a 10-minute segment. Again, well worth watching. Go to News Nation. Go to their YouTube channel. They have it up. I can tell you, I gathered my entire family. In fact, I got my kids. My kids had gone to bed, and I had them come out of their rooms because someone sent me this. I didn't know the guy did an interview on News Nation, and so my kids came out of their rooms after they'd already gone to bed. So and I got my wife to gather around, and I said, come on, kids, come on, family. It's a family moment. We're going to watch this interview. You're going to remember this moment for the rest of your life. And we watched the interview, and they were bored by it. Like, they didn't even care. My wife started wandering away in the middle of it. I said, where are you going? It's only 10 minutes. Can you spare 10 minutes to learn about aliens? I won't subject you to 10 minutes, but here's 1 minute with some additional information about what this guy says the government has recovered. Listen.
If you're right, if you're telling us the truth, everyone, the entire American public, has been lied to for decades.
Yeah, there's a sophisticated disinformation campaign targeting the U.S. populace, which is extremely unethical and immoral.
You are saying to the human race, for the first time, an official intelligence representative at a high level from the US government is saying publicly, we are not alone.
We're definitely not alone. Absolutely, the data points empirically that we're not alone, yeah.
Do we have bodies? Do we have species of
Well,
non-human?
naturally, when you recover something that's either landed or crashed, sometimes you encounter dead pilots. And believe it or not, as fantastical as that sounds, it's true.
So he's saying that we not only have the vehicles, but they actually have actual extraterrestrial aliens in their possession. Now, let me answer a few objections. There are objections that are raised, by people very close to me. Like, for example, my own wife, my coworkers here. We're not alone in the universe, but I feel alone sometimes as a UFO enthusiast, especially working here. So objections are raised, but the real objection people have, I think, is that they rule it out as a possibility because they don't want to think about the implications if it's true. I think that's actually what's going on, and we'll get to that in a second. But so there's the real objection, which is that there are people, especially some conservatives, who think that, like, I can't believe this. I just can't. Not that it's unbelievable, but I can't allow myself to believe it because I think it has implications that are scary to me. But that's not usually what's said. Instead, it's something, they cite other reasons. And one of them is that this is a distraction by the government. They're trying to distract us. That's all this is. But that's nonsense, first of all, because these stories don't get a lot of attention, right? They get some attention, but they're not. It's not something that dominates the news cycle for days on end. Many people don't care that much. So they should care, I think, but they don't. So the distraction theory is totally baseless. It makes no sense. It's not a distraction. People don't focus on it that much. Not to mention the whole idea that the government would need to invent these kinds of stories to distract us. Like, we're distracted all the time anyway by a million different things. So they need to come up with some totally outlandish story about aliens that they've recovered to distract us when we're already, most people, they spend 10 hours a day just like scrolling randomly through TikTok and watching Netflix. You think that the American public needs to be distracted by this? It's like you're flattering us, okay? As if we're all, laser focused on the important issues. And so they have to come up with some crazy distraction mechanism. That's not the case. I wish it was, but it's not. Are you tired of waiting ages for your grill to heat up? Now you can say goodbye to those tedious moments of impatiently watching the charcoal burn and say hello to instant barbecue perfection, thanks to our new friends and they're very good friends already because they gave me one of these. Our friends at Grill Blazer. Grill Blazer's grill guns are designed to do everything from expertly searing your meats to lighting charcoal grills, wood stoves, outdoor fireplaces, and just about anything else you can think of with high-power fire to solve your problem. Grill Blazers offers two types of grill guns. The Grill Gun Basic is a high-power propane torch designed to light charcoal and wood grills and smokers. It burns up to 3,600 degrees. Its 30-inch flame is for anything you need a big bad torch to do. And the sous vide gun has a shorter barrel, which I believe is what I have here. Perfect for professional culinary kitchen uses, from gently caramelizing brulee or other sugar fruits to rapidly searing steaks outside on the grill. Using the grill gun may result in extreme grill envy from your neighbors and increased demands for barbecue parties. They handed this thing to me, and I was just informed that this thing is ready to go. So if I pull this trigger, fire will shoot out. And I was told not to pull the trigger. Let's find out what happens. So we know what happens if you use this in your kitchen. What if I grill that TV over there? What will happen? We could find that out together. I'm finding it very difficult to exercise trigger discipline with this thing. Like the temptation, I really just want to pull the trigger and see what happens.
No.
No, I'm being told no. Then why hand me one that's loaded? This thing is ready, like don't put the propane tank on it. Anyway, get your grill gun from Grill Blazers today and let the grilling adventures begin. Visit grillblazer.com/Walsh and use promo code Walsh for 15% off your order. That's grillblazer.com/Walsh, promo code Walsh for 15% off your order. At most, this is just like a sideshow. People treat it like a sideshow. And if the government wanted to throw out minor sideshow things, they don't have to go all the way to aliens. So the theory doesn't make any sense. Also, if your argument against these stories is that you don't trust the government, well, for decades, the government denied all of this. They lied to us. They made up all kinds of ludicrous explanations for these phenomena. Now you're just parroting what the government has said for decades. The intelligence community on the record for decades has said, no, there's nothing going on. Everything's fine. Everything's cool. So who's the one trusting the government here? Besides, these are mostly whistleblowers telling us about this. These are not official government agencies. In fact, the Pentagon came out with an official statement denying this. So you can believe the whistleblower or you can believe the official statement from the Pentagon. And if you're skeptical of the government, which one are you going to trust? You're skeptical of the government, so you trust their official statement and not the whistleblower who gains nothing by saying this. He destroys his entire career, potentially puts himself, who knows? He could be prosecuted, knows what they're going to do. So like if skepticism of government is one of your primary motivating things, which I totally understand, then that should lead you to lending some credibility to this. I've also heard the theory. In fact, I was just talking to Michael Knowles about this in Wardrobe, and he was speculating it was a misdirect. This could be a misdirection, right? Because really, this is our own tech, and that people are seeing, and we're claiming aliens so that China doesn't know, or whoever, one of our adversaries, doesn't know that we have this technology. But that makes no sense, as I explained to him just a few minutes ago, because they also are saying, this whistleblower is saying, other countries have recovered this stuff too. So China would know if the alien story is totally made up. Like, you're not going to misdirect them. They know if it's true or not. So the idea that we're trying to fool our adversaries who also have high-level classified information of their own, and we're trying to fool them by making up a story about aliens, to me is ridiculous. Now, then there's the question of evidence, and there are some people who say, yes, we're 10 minutes into it, we're still talking about this. There are people who say, well, it's not enough evidence. It's just hearsay, right? Well, you got to take the whole picture into account. This is just the latest whistleblower, somebody very high up on the chain who, as far as I can tell, stands to gain nothing from this, who had access to very classified information, verified by other officials, denied officially by the Pentagon. But it's the latest in a chain of events that includes all kinds of sightings, thousands of them, accompanied by photographic and video evidence, radar. It's been going back... there was many famous sightings going back years and years and years, going back decades. There was the famous sighting that I think they covered in Unsolved Mysteries, the latest Unsolved Mysteries series on Netflix in Michigan, where hundreds of people saw these things simultaneously and were calling in. We have the 911 reports of them calling in, reporting what sound very much like flying saucers. And it was caught on radar by the National Weather Service at the same time. So many things like that. So you've got eyewitnesses, you've got classified information, you've got physical evidence, you do have videos, we have radar. So there's actually a lot of evidence here, which makes, so if it's still not enough for you to even entertain the possibility, then I have to ask you, what do you need? If this isn't enough to even make you pause to think about it, then what evidence do you need? What that tells me is that there is no evidence that you could ever be presented that would convince you. And I think that is the case for some people. Like, you could literally see them land right in front of you and you would still say, oh, it's AI, it's mind control. It's like, you would go to any other explanation but that. And I think that's because there's a large portion, especially of conservatives, who think, because conservatives tend to be more religious, and who think that they can't believe this because it would call their faith into question. But that's not true. Let me relieve you of that burden. There's nothing about the potential existence of life elsewhere in the universe that would call your faith into question. It just, we know the universe is massive and there's lots of things going on in the universe we don't know about. We probably can't even understand because God has created a universe that is much bigger and more complicated and more amazing than maybe you give it credit for. I don't see how that calls anything. Now, it raises questions that we can't answer all. It raises all kinds of questions, religious questions, scientific questions that we can't answer because some of this stuff is above our pay grade. But who says we have to understand every last thing? We have to be able to understand every last thing about the universe. And as far as the Bible goes, the Bible isn't concerned with talking about what's happening elsewhere in the universe. Doesn't acknowledge other planets at all, really. Doesn't mean it denies they exist. It's just, it's focused on what's happening here. So I don't think that that's a concern you need to have, but I do think that that is really the fundamental reason why many people refuse to even look at the evidence, because they think that they are committed to not believing it, and I think that that's just not true. You can be open-minded, look at the evidence, and at least acknowledge that, again, the universe is a bigger and more complicated place than any of us could possibly understand. And there are, putting aliens aside, there are things happening out there in the vast cosmos that we can't possibly wrap our minds around. All right, that's my pitch. At least I didn't start the show, though. I was very close to making this the lead story of the show. I probably should have. If you'd like to see what else I have to say, you can access my full show by going to dailywire.com or by going to the Matt Walsh Show Twitter page. Hope to see you there. Godspeed.